She was an exhausted nurse just trying to get to Miami for a much-needed break. But one simple mistake at the airport gate was about to put her on a private jet and send her straight into the arms of a billionaire who refused to let her go. A mistake at gate 47. Jenna Reed pressed her fingers against her tired eyes as she practically ran through Newark Airport. Her worn sneakers squeaked against the polished floor, and every muscle in her body ached from the double shift she had just finished at St. Mary's Hospital. 16 hours of monitoring patients in the ICU, watching vital signs, administering medications, and holding the hand of a scared elderly woman who made it through the night against all odds. The clock on her phone showed 5:15 a.m. Her flight to Miami was boarding at gate 42, and she was at gate 18. After 2 years of nonstop work, caring for her younger brother Tyler after their parents died in a car accident, she desperately needed this weekend. Just 3 days on a beach with her nursing school friend Rachel. Away from heart monitors and medication charts, and the constant weight of responsibility. She thought she was just running late for a cheap flight. She had no idea she was walking straight into a mistake that would change her entire life forever. Jenna rounded the corner, her backpack bouncing against her shoulders, the signs blurring together in her exhausted state. Gate 40. Gate 41. She squinted at the next sign. Gate 47. Wait, that was not right. She pulled out her phone, trying to focus on the boarding pass through the fog of fatigue. A woman in a crisp navy uniform smiled at her. "Miss Patterson, we have been waiting for you." "I'm not," Jenna started to say. But another staff member gently took her elbow. "Mr. Montgomery was worried you might miss the flight. Let's get you boarded quickly." Before Jenna could form a protest, she found herself being guided down a jetway. This was wrong. She knew it was wrong, but her brain felt like it was wrapped in cotton. Maybe this was some kind of upgrade. Maybe Rachel had done something nice? Then she stepped into the plane, and her breath caught. This was not a commercial aircraft. Cream leather seats, each one wider than her entire living room couch. Polished wood panels, gleaming and soft lighting. A full bar with bottles that probably cost more than her monthly rent. And sitting by the window, turned away from her, was a man in a suit that looked like it had been sewn directly onto his body. The door closed behind her with a heavy thunk. That sound jolted Jenna fully awake. The reality of her mistake crashed over her like ice water. The man turned around, and Jenna's medical training kicked in automatically. Male, early 30s, physically fit, dark hair slightly messy in a way that looked intentional. His eyes were a striking blue-gray, and when they landed on her, they widened in obvious surprise. "You are not Vanessa," he said. It wasn't a question. "No," Jenna replied, clutching her phone. "I'm Jenna Reed, and I think I got on the wrong plane." The corner of his mouth twitched. "That seems likely." The engines began their pre-flight roar, and panic rose in Jenna's chest. "I need to get off. I'm supposed to be on a flight to Miami. My friend is waiting." "I'm afraid we have already received clearance for takeoff," the man said, looking almost amused. "My staff apparently mistook you for my companion for this trip." Jenna sank into the seat across from him because her legs suddenly felt too weak to hold her. "Where is this plane going?" "Paris," he said simply. "Paris? As in Paris, France?" Jenna ran her hands through her hair. "This cannot be happening. I don't even have my passport." "Wait, yes, I do." She remembered throwing it in her backpack months ago, thinking maybe someday she would travel again. "But that's not the point. I cannot go to Paris. I have a shift on Monday. I have to take care of my brother." "I'm Blake Montgomery, by the way," the man said, extending his hand. Jenna shook it automatically. His grip was firm and warm. "This is insane." "Thoroughly," Blake agreed. "My assistant booked this trip with Vanessa Patterson, a model I occasionally spend time with. She apparently canceled at the last minute, and my staff assumed you were her." "Do I look like a model?" Jenna asked, gesturing to her faded jeans and plain sweater. Blake's eyes traveled over her with an intensity that made her skin warm. "You look exhausted, If I am being honest. When was the last time you slept? About 30 hours ago, Jenna admitted. I work in the ICU. We had an emergency case that turned into two, and then my regular shift started. So you rushed from a double shift directly to the airport? It was supposed to be my first vacation in 2 years, Jenna said, hearing the defeat in her own voice. And instead, I am being kidnapped to France. Technically, this is not kidnapping if you walked onto my plane voluntarily, Blake pointed out gently. Though I understand that's not particularly comforting. The plane lifted off smoothly, and Jenna felt tears prick her eyes. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen to people like her, people who worked 60-hour weeks and counted every dollar. Hey, Blake said softly. I know this is overwhelming, but I promise you, the moment we land in Paris, I will arrange for you to fly home. First class, any airline you want. This is not your fault. It kind of is my fault, Jenna said, wiping her eyes. I was so tired I didn't even check the gate number properly. Sleep deprivation is serious, Blake said, his tone concerned. As someone who has pushed through plenty of all-nighters building my company, I know how it messes with your judgment. Jenna looked at him carefully. What do you do? I run a tech company. Software security, mostly. A flight attendant appeared with food that smelled incredible. Despite everything, Jenna realized she was starving. Please eat, Blake encouraged. We have about 7 hours until we land. You should rest. I don't understand why you are being so nice, Jenna said, taking a perfect croissant. I crashed your romantic trip. Blake's expression darkened slightly. It wasn't particularly romantic. More of a social obligation. Honestly? You might have done me a favor. As they ate, conversation began to flow naturally. Blake asked about her work, and Jenna described the intensity of the ICU. Why nursing? Blake asked. My grandmother, Jenna said. She got sick when I was in high school. The nurses who cared for her were amazing. They made something terrifying feel manageable. I wanted to be that person for someone else. That's beautiful, Blake said quietly. What about you? Why software security? Blake was quiet for a moment. My best friend from college and I started the company together. He was paranoid about online privacy. We decided to do something about it. Was? Jenna asked gently, hearing the past tense. He died a year ago. Climbing accident in Colorado. Blake's voice was controlled, but Jenna heard the pain. I am so sorry, Jenna said, and meant it. She knew grief. She lived with it every day since her parents died. Your parents, Blake said, reading her expression. That is why you are raising your brother. Tyler. He is 19 now, starting college in the fall. Princeton on a partial scholarship. Pride filled her voice. And you are working double shifts to help with tuition, Blake guessed. Jenna nodded. The life insurance helped, but it's not enough. Medical school is expensive. They talked for hours. Blake was surprisingly easy to talk to once the shock wore off. He didn't treat her differently because of the money. Finally, exhaustion caught up with Jenna. Sleep, Blake said, handing her a blanket that was softer than anything she had ever touched. I promise I will be a perfect gentleman. I don't usually fall asleep on strange men's private jets, Jenna mumbled, drifting off. I should hope not, Blake replied with a smile. Jenna slept deeply. When she woke, Paris waited below them, glittering in the morning sun. She saw Blake sitting across from her, reading on his tablet. Good morning, he said. We land in 30 minutes. Jenna sat up, realizing she had drooled on the expensive leather. I can't believe I actually slept. You needed it. Jenna looked out the window. The Eiffel Tower rose in the distance, and her breath caught. It is beautiful. Listen, Blake said. I know I said I would put you on the first flight home, but you have until Monday evening for your shift, right? What if you stayed? Just for today. Let me show you Paris as an apology. Then tomorrow, I will make sure you get home. Every practical part of Jenna's brain screamed no. But something else whispered yes. I should call my brother, she said. Tyler answered on the second ring. Jenna! Rachel has been calling everyone. Where are you? This is going to sound crazy. Jenna began, explaining the situation. There was silence. Then Tyler spoke. You are in Paris, with a billionaire? He's not a billionaire. He just has a tech company. Jenna, I looked him up while you were talking. Blake Montgomery. His company is worth about $6 billion. He is on the Forbes list. Jenna's stomach dropped. She looked at Blake, who was pretending not to listen. Tyler, I have to go. Are you okay with Aunt Carol for another day? I am 19, not 9, Tyler said. Stay in Paris. You deserve this. After hanging up, Jenna turned to Blake. My brother says you are worth $6 billion. The company is worth that. It is not the same thing. You let me think you were just a regular businessman. Would you have talked to me the same way if you knew? Blake asked quietly. Jenna considered this. Probably not. Fair point, Blake said. One day in Paris. Let me show you the real city, not the tourist version. Against her better judgment, Jenna nodded. Blake arranged a suite for her at a luxurious hotel. Clothing appeared that was exactly her size. Feeling like an imposter in designer jeans, she met Blake in the lobby. Instead of the Eiffel Tower, he took her to a small cafe in the Marais district. The owner greeted him like family. I lived in Paris for 2 years after college, Blake explained. Before the company took off. My friend David and I fell in love with the city. He told her about how David had wanted to retire there, paint, and live simply. What happened? Jenna asked. Climbing accident, like I said. But it was my fault. Blake stared at his coffee. We had a tradition to go hiking every year. Last year, I cancelled for a big meeting. David went alone. He fell. By the time anyone found him, it was too late. Jenna reached across the table and took his hand. That was not your fault. Knowing it logically doesn't change how it feels, Blake said, but he didn't pull away. I understand, Jenna said quietly. When my parents died, I picked up an extra shift instead of going home. If I had been there, maybe they would still be alive. And maybe you would have died too, Blake said, tightening his grip on her fingers. Exactly what my therapist says. But the guilt doesn't listen to logic. They sat in comfortable silence, two people who understood loss. Blake showed her Paris through the eyes of someone who loved it. Hidden courtyards, old bookshops, quiet gardens. They watched an old man feed pigeons. Jenna felt the tension she had carried for years finally loosen. Thank you for this, she said. Thank you for being here, Blake replied. I haven't enjoyed Paris like this in years. Everything became about business. I forgot why I loved it. As evening approached, they went to a small restaurant with no menu, where the owner, Camille, treated them like her own children. Blake asked about her dreams. I wanted to travel, Jenna confessed. I had a job offer in Seattle, research, better pay. But Tyler needed stability. I couldn't uproot him. Sometimes I feel 40 instead of 27. I haven't been on a date in 2 years. Until today, Blake said softly. Until today, Jenna agreed. The air between them shifted. They walked through the lamplit streets. I don't want you to leave tomorrow, Blake said suddenly. Jenna's heart skipped. Stay another day. 2 days. That gives us time. Time for what? To see if this is real. The way you make me want to be present instead of running. I haven't felt this in so long. We live in completely different worlds, Jenna protested weakly. So what? We find a way. Blake cupped her face in his hands. When he kissed her, Paris sparkled around them. Jenna had stopped letting herself imagine, but now, she kissed him back, tasting hope. 2 more days, she whispered. The next morning, they woke up at Blake's country house outside the city. It was grand but cozy. Jenna found Blake in the kitchen with Camille. Mr. Blake says you stay longer? Camille smiled. This is good. He needs company that is real, not those silly models. Blake showed her the vineyard and the library. I bought this place with David. We were going to retire here. It sounds perfect, Jenna said. It felt empty after he died, Blake admitted. But now, it feels less empty. But reality intruded that afternoon. Jenna checked online and saw articles about Blake, photos of him at galas with beautiful women. He wasn't just rich, he was in a different stratosphere. Jenna felt sick. When Blake found her, she was looking at an article about him. You found out, he said. You lied to me, Jenna said, hurt. I feel stupid. Talking about my student loans when you could write a check for the entire hospital. That is exactly why I didn't tell you, Blake said. The moment people know, everything changes. They want something. But Jenna, these past 2 days with you have been the most real thing in my life since David died. You see a person, not a bank account. I don't know if I can do this, Jenna whispered. I am a nurse from Newark who worries about rent. We don't make sense. Why not? Blake challenged. Because I have money? That is just circumstance. Because when this ends, I will be the one destroyed, Jenna cried. You will go back to your millions, and I will go back to my shifts. And I will know what I am missing. Blake pulled her into his arms. And what if it doesn't end? What if this is the beginning of something real? They spent the rest of the day really opening up. Blake talked about his lonely childhood and how David was the only one who knew the real him. Now I have you, Blake said. You saw me for who I am. Jenna told him about the weight of always being the strong one. You don't have to be strong alone anymore, Blake promised. Let me help. Not with money, but let me be someone you can lean on. As the sun set, Jenna made her choice. She chose to hope. Okay, she said. We try. But slowly. The flight back to New York came too soon. Blake drove her all the way to her apartment in Newark. Jenna felt embarrassed by the peeling paint and the smell of the stairwell, but Blake didn't blink. Tyler tackled her when she walked in. You're alive! Then he saw Blake. That is Blake Montgomery. Nice to meet you, Blake said, shaking his hand. At the door, Blake kissed Jenna gently. This is not the end. I will call you tomorrow. Jenna touched the Eiffel Tower pendant he had given her. Her phone buzzed. A text from Blake, already missing you. Dinner Thursday? She smiled. It is a date. 6 months later, Jenna walked into St. Mary's Hospital for her shift. Blake had been true to his word. He came to Newark every week, met her friends, and made her feel proud to be his girlfriend. He even secretly set up a scholarship that covered Tyler's tuition. Jenna! Her colleague Rachel came running up. There is a situation in the lobby. Jenna hurried downstairs, expecting an emergency. Instead, she found Blake standing there with an enormous bouquet of flowers. What are you doing here? She laughed. I couldn't wait until Thursday, Blake said. He looked at the hospital staff gathering around. Is this okay? It is perfect, Jenna said, kissing him in front of everyone. I have been thinking, Blake said, taking her hand. I want to open a foundation for nursing scholarships. I want to name it after David. But I need someone to help me run it. Someone who understands the mission. I need you. Jenna looked up at the man who had crashed into her life on a plane 3 days that changed everything. Tears of joy filled her eyes. This was real.